Welcome back. Caroline Sirakma and Sean Farquhar with you. You're watching the 2013 ABL crossover preseason program. We will turn our attention now to two head coaches who have just completed their first season coaching the Indonesia Warriors and the Westport Malaysia Dragons. Let's take a look at the first season of Ariel Vanguardia, in charge of the Westport Malaysia Dragons. Previously an assistant coach, he took over the team in 2012, guiding them to a third-place finish in the regular season with a mixture of imports and some budding Malaysian talent, and then in the playoffs, reaching the semifinals. Todd Purves, meanwhile, in his first season with the Indonesia Warriors, guiding them to their first ever ABL championship, a big mid-season turnaround for the Indonesia Warriors, the capper for them coming into 2013. We welcome to the program Ariel Vanguardia and Todd Purves. Todd, let's start with you. First, congratulations on winning the 2012 ABL championship. Very well done. Winning it in hostile territory in Manila against the Beermen.
Absolutely. I appreciate the kind words, and that is the definition of a hostile territory there in Manila, where they always put a great organization together, and it's going to be a tough fight anytime you go there.
So let's talk about the way the season went for you. 2012, the Warriors got off to a slow start. Was that just a result of them getting used to the systems that you were putting in place?
Well, you know, I think it was a combination of things, and that was one of them. Systems, and them being introduced to the system and a different style of play, as well as me, myself, from a coaching perspective, figuring out the league a little bit. And I think I made some big mistakes early on, and so I had to learn from those and hopefully grow a little bit as a coach at the same time that my players were growing. And we did make a couple of personnel changes that benefited us pretty well down the stretch. We brought on Stanley Pringle, who was playing professionally overseas as well, and he was a big boost for our team. We also brought in Evan Brock, who later was the MVP of the finals, and both guys with great character, and they really helped us a great deal. So to answer your question, I think it was a multitude of things, and I was just really proud of the guys for sticking it out in the early going. And I told them a number of times down the stretch of the season that I thought the integrity they showed and the character they showed from bouncing back from those losses are what really gave us the strength to push through come playoff time.
Right, because you went into the finals an underdog against the San Miguel Beermen, holding home court advantage over you, and the Beermen had really ripped through the ABL in 2012, but you were able to neutralize the bigs and really get your own game going.
Well, they had ripped through us as well, 5 times, including the preseason. And so we were well aware of the drubbing we'd received, especially going into those final 2 games. We were 0-5 until that point. And like I said, I think I attribute a lot of that to the character that the guys built during our losing streaks and during those difficult times. They just kept getting back up, and obviously that just gave us a puncher's chance, as they say, maybe come championship time.
And with that, Kay, a big day for Indonesia winning that championship.
Of course, it was tough though, right? It was a long road. I mean, was it easy for you to adjust yourself? I mean, this is your first time coming to Asia. Once again, cultural differences, everything is very different. Even the basketball community and the sports itself is very different here. Absolutely. So how did you adjust with that in such a short period of time, and then you winning the championship?
Well, from a basketball perspective, it kind of remains the same. It's just a matter of teaching the fundamentals. And I'm fortunate that here in Indonesia, I had a wonderful group of guys that had bought in early. And they bought in, as I mentioned earlier, even when things weren't working as we'd hoped to early in the season. Right. And so there was an adjustment for me personally, as well as some import players coming to Asia for the first time.
Yes.
But we've been blessed that we're in a wonderful country in Indonesia where we've had good support both on and off the court, and that made the transition a lot smoother for me.
Like Sean, we asked Mr. Handy before that the local players got more confident if the import players or the international players are good. You know, if not, they would lose the confidence. So what about 2013? Are you focusing through with your local players?
Well, you know, specifically when it comes to the import players, I think it's more important than just that player being good.
Right.
They have to buy into your system and buy into helping out the local players too and raise their game. And there are 3 things that I really look for when I'm bringing import players. And I need them to be physically tough because it's a physical league.
Yeah.
And I need them to be mentally tough because they're going to deal with a lot of adversity throughout. And the 3rd thing is they must be unselfish. And I think when you bring in guys that are unselfish, they naturally want to help teammates. And so I would say chemistry was as big a reason as we had any degree of success that we did last year. And I really give a lot of credit to the import players' selflessness when they run.
Yeah, well, Sean, basketball is a sport for men, right, with their egos and everything, and of course healthiness. We have to ask Coach Ariel for that. I mean,
Exactly.
everybody has to be healthy here.
Yeah, what Kay's alluding to, the fact that, in the semifinals, you guys were one Brian Williams stomachache away from upsetting the San Miguel Beermen. He went down, and that really changed that game, didn't it?
Well, yes, because, we convincingly won at home. And, the momentum was on our side, and we didn't, it was unfortunate, really, that he went down third game, and we couldn't, adjust in time. But it was a good run, and I think we learned our lesson from that, unfortunate incident, and we'll grow. I think we'll grow as a team from that experience.
You finished in third spot. I think you had to be pleased with the progress you made in your first season. And we were talking about, local players and imports. I mean, how do you blend it all together? You got some Malaysian players who, they're growing, in their careers, and then you bring over, some import players who are much more experienced. I mean, how do you mix that together?
Well, we have really a good blend of players, and I like the progress of our Malaysian players, especially one of my best shooters, Hifai, and John Nang is there, and Guga's been always solid. And basketball is not really the first sport in Malaysia, so it's a football country, and we know that. But slowly but surely, basketball is growing, and now with those players gaining more experience and blending in with the imports, I think it'll be good for the organization and KL Dragons.
Well, you say Malaysia is not the #1 sport, but anyone who's sat at a game at Mava Stadium would probably beg to differ. That place is a madhouse.
Oh,
yes,
it's always exciting playing in home court, and we had a good run really, and we play better at home with the 6-man supporting us.
Great. And again, local players with the imports, I mean, how do you put it together as a head coach? You got guys speaking different languages, they're all at different levels of their career. How does that blend?
It really, you have to get guys that are willing to sacrifice. And when they're sacrificing their own personal goals and they're looking out for teammates, it makes things a lot easier to blend that way. I know Coach Ariel did a wonderful job as well. He had two of the best imports, if not the two best imports in our league. And to blend them with the local players is always a challenge for us. But it boils down to the integrity both your local players as well as your import players. And that's the first thing we're looking for. Guys with integrity are willing to sacrifice, and that makes the blending a lot easier from a coaching perspective. Makes us look better, like we're doing a better job than we really are.
One of the things we talked about with the league officials in our first segment was the perceived inconsistency in the officiating in 2012. I mean, how much of it was inconsistency, and then how much of it was just, guys chewing the rag and complaining about refereeing, which goes on everywhere in the basketball world?
Well, I don't want to be fined again, so I'll be extra careful this time. But
a lot of it's a growing league.
It's a growing league,
and immediately following.
And they're human. They commit mistakes. We commit mistakes also. It's just that sometimes as coaches or the players, just in the game, the heat of the moment. But it's a growing league, and I think we're in the right direction. And I think with Ariel joining us this season, I think the league itself will be there. And I know Coach shares the same, that if everybody improve and appreciating improve, will improve as a whole.
Yeah, Coach Todd also has his time.
Well, actually, Coach, I didn't notice any bad calls at all last year. I agree with those calls and those referees, and I'm sorry.
But there was one moment. There was only one moment.
Right. Yes, that's what I remember. Good call. Both these guys all year, all season long.
All right. Of course, we know that Coach Ariel, you went to Las Vegas, for scouting for some of the players, maybe to come to Westport Malaysia Dragons. What about your roster for 2013? Is everything ready?
We're getting there. We had tryouts in Vegas, LA, and San Francisco, for not only for our American imports, but for our ASEAN import. We signed our ASEAN imports. Patrick Cabaug is coming back. And
he's back.
We brought in a big man, Moala Totua, who came out of college. He's an ASEAN import. As far as our American imports, we're close to signing them. I've watched a couple of them playing NBA Summer League in Vegas, and hopefully we sign them by this week.
Right, and Indonesia Warriors, we see a lot of faces that we saw last season, Coach Todd.
Absolutely.
We got Stanley, we have Kanyada, Steve Thomas, and which one is that other one player that's going to fill in the Evan Brock shoes?
Well, obviously, we had with some degree of success. I want to bring a lot of those players back.
Right.
And we wish Evan a great deal of success as he's moved on in his career and he's doing some big things. But we have added a couple of new players. We bring in a player named Chris Daniels, who's a small forward, power forward, defensive-minded player, and that's really our type of philosophy. What might be interesting is that both of our import players are former Defensive Players of the Year in different leagues. And so I think from a mental perspective, those are the type of players that I'd like to bring in and join us, and we expect that he's going to fill in just well. We also have another ASEAN import coming in named Rich Smith, who's a big man as well. I know Coach Vergara, as well as myself, are both looking for some big men we could bring over and bulk up a little bit. And Rich is a 6'7", 250-pound power forward, and wonderful guy. So we look forward to him joining us. He's fresh out of college as well, so it'll be a chance to do some teaching.
Sean, a lot of big guys, big dudes. Hopefully they are also strong in health, though.
All right, so two things, very important. Your rosters are almost set, and more importantly, you said all the right things about the officials going into the season. All right, Todd Purves, Ariel Vanguardia, thanks very much for joining us.
Our pleasure.
When we return on the ABL crossover preseason program, we'll meet some of the players, Stanley Pringle and Guga among them. Stay with us.